At the beginning of the film, it showed a man named Luke Brunner. He is a senior CIA agent. At that time, Luke caused a fire, but he immediately called the firefighters. With the help of his friend, Barry, who is in the monitor room, Luke is directed to a certain location. Within 20 seconds, Luke had to put on a firefighter's uniform and then run and jump on top of the fire truck. It was an area called the Diamond District, one of the most protected places in the world. Then Luke gets into a very smelly sewer. Arriving at the target point, Luke uses a laser to destroy the wall. After that, he climbs up to blow up a valuable storage box, and it turns out that the target was a diamond. Shortly, Luke made a transaction with the mafia. He gave the diamond, while the mafia showed the coordinates of his boss's whereabouts. With these coordinates, Barry's job is to finish off the boss who committed a major crime, human trafficking. But suddenly, the mafia found something wrong with the diamond because it had plastic in it, which was the result of an explosion. That's when it was revealed that the diamond was not a business product, but stolen. After a search, they found a capsule. According to Luke, it was cyanide. Luke acts that he will drink the cyanide, but actually he had already taken the antidote. And that's when Luke took action by finishing all the mafia. This operation is Luke's last mission, because he will soon retire from the CIA. Barry's headquarters is in Luke's fitness center, Mary Fitness. Luke then returns to his home. He was greeted by his son, but not only that, there is a woman who is his ex-wife, Tally. Luke and Tally divorced 15 years ago. Luke gave one of the stolen diamonds to his grandchild. And this girl is Emma, Luke's daughter, who is having a birthday. She admits that she works in a social institution that provides clean and free drinking water for the needs of the Colombian people. At that time, Emma complained of pain in her shoulder, but she then returned to excited to open the gift from her father. Luke is very proud of his daughter. Carter, Emma's boyfriend, assures Luke that Emma will be in a safe place. 6 weeks later, Luke comes to the CIA's headquarters in New York. Proudly, Luke tells Alden and Rue that he wants to remind them of the CIA's promise to give a yacht when Luke retires. It was to persuade Luke's ex-wife. Suddenly, Barry calls Luke to tell about the current situation that will endanger the CIA's agent. Barry then displays a photo of a mobster named Omar Polonia, who was killed by Luke 25 years ago. Now, Omar's son, Boro Polonia, is following in his father's profession. Even though Luke already put him in a boarding school in London, Boro's crime organization called Lake Palermo now has more than 400 members. They're focusing on an illegal business, one of which is a nuclear briefcase equipped with a beryllium reflector, and it is very dangerous. Moreover, this is a weapon of mass destruction that can be carried anywhere. Then there is a man named Troy who will bring Boro to a buyer. However, Troy already knows that someone with the nickname Panda is an undercover CIA agent. So Luke is assigned to be the boss, who is highly respected by Boro, and Luke pretends that he has a client who will buy the nuclear briefcase. Like it or not, Luke had to fly to Guyana and took Panda and the weapon out of there. At first, Luke refuses because he has retired from his duties. But this order came straight from the White House, and Luke couldn't refuse it. But here, Luke was hurt because Barry already knew that now Tally has a boyfriend named Donatello. Long story short, Luke had landed in Guyana. Through the hidden camera under Luke's shirt, Barry told Luke that the man who picked him up was Kane Khan, Boro's right-hand man. He was quite dangerous. Then Luke is taken to their base and meets Boro, who he calls the bad guy. Boro explained that the people in Guyana were very loyal to him because he provided gardens to grow ginger, cinnamon, and cocoa for his business and money laundering. The team that monitors Luke's mission saw the tattoos of these farm workers, which means they are equally dangerous. After that, Luke was invited to the free fight arena. One of the participants is a woman named Danny, who has a deadly fist. Luke was very shocked because this woman was his own daughter, Emma. In the end, Emma managed to beat her opponent, then she asked the referee to fix her dislocated shoulder. Boro then introduced Danny to Vinhouse, Luke's pseudonym. Behind Boro, this father and daughter had a fight because both of them had lied to each other. And it turned out that Barry who had arranged their mission. In fact, Emma is also a CIA agent, but Luke doesn't know about this. Emma was expressing her disappointment because her father is a senior CIA agent. Emma got the highest score in the recruitment process, so she officially became a CIA agent. It turns out that the CIA agent with the pseudonym Panda is Emma, who will be exposed by Troy this afternoon. So Luke had an important task to get his daughter out of there. In the evening, Boro throws a party to welcome Vin House, who is considered as his adoptive father. Boro then calls his man named Jocko, who has worked for him for 15 years to oversee the sale of weapons. Suddenly, Boro asks for the money from the last sale, because Boro already knew that Jocko had betrayed him. And at that moment, Boro shot Jocko. Boro knew Vin as a soldier whose characteristic left a vertical stab wound on the victim's neck. And suddenly, a blond man named William slipped a piece of paper into Luke's hand. In the message, William said that he would pay Luke as long as he could get William and his family out of this place. Emma was worried that it's a trap for them. The most important thing right now is that they get out of that place with the weapon before Troy arrives. In another place, Boro's gang's car stopped in the middle of the forest when they saw a cow lying there. Luke and Emma trapped the people who were going to pick up Troy. Even Emma was in the stomach of the cow. Then, arriving there, Luke and Emma were arguing and they bumped into Troy. In the end, they threw the 3 bodies of Boro's men into the rice fields. Their next plan was to take the nuclear case. It was hilarious when Luke holding the vibrating lipstick belonged to Emma. The next day, Boro and his man came to Vin, because Boro suspected that Vin and Emma had gone into the forest last night. Then those 3 bodies were washed away in the river, and when Boro saw a vertical wound on their neck, he immediately knew the culprit was Vin. After that, Luke and Emma immediately ran away from there, including William and his family. But before that, Luke took the nuclear case first. Then, Boro and his men chase Luke's group and a shootout ensues. When they reached the runway, Boro and his man surrounded them. Then the series continues to the 2nd episode. Luke tried to intimidate Boro, with the aim of buying time until help came. A hilarious action was carried out by Barry, who's hanging on a rope to drive away Boro and his accomplice. Long story short, they return to the CIA headquarters. Here, the CIA commander again assigns Emma to work with her father to complete this mission to capture Boro. However, Emma refused it because she didn't want to work with his father. The same offer is made to Luke, so he can help develop Emma's potential to become a reliable agent. Luke and his daughter are now arguing again because Emma is stubborn. Then, Luke enlists Barry's help in tapping the laptop of his ex-wife's boyfriend. Luke wants to spy on Donatello, and when he sees his movements, Luke thinks this man is very stupid, yet he tries to get close to Luke's son so he can get close to Tally. Emma's boyfriend, Carter, is a kindergarten teacher, and he doesn't know Emma's identity as a CIA agent. On the other hand, Luke and Barry will enter CIA headquarters, and they will have to go through a checkpoint, which is in a car wash, and then head down the underground passage. After fighting for seats in the meeting room, Emma and her father listen to the explanation from their superiors regarding the next mission, that is to catch Boro. The team detected Boro's plane was over Puerto and then disappeared during a storm. Here, Emma and Luke agreed that it was part of Boro's plan to remove his traces as if he was dead. The CIA director then introduces Tina, who served in the NSA, to help with this mission, and it seemed that Barry was attracted to this woman. After losing the nuclear case, Emma and Luke were sure that Boro would make a replacement weapon. Because of that, Boro was suspected of going to search for radioactive waste. Especially for Luke and Emma, the director of the CIA has appointed a psychologist, Dr. Lewis, who will help sort things out between them. When Emma is having dinner with her mother and Donatello, Luke purposely comes because he doesn't want his ex-wife to be close to another man. Luke is sure that Donatello has bad intentions for his family. The next day, Dr. Lewis made a special vest equipped with magnets which made it difficult for Luke and his daughter to hug each other. According to Dr. Lewis, this method is perfect for solving their fights. The scene shows the meeting of the CIA agents team. Tina gets information that Kane Khan is in Kazakhstan stealing the cesium-137 train, which is enough to destroy a big city. They believe the theft will be carried out when the magnetic train is slowing around on a bend. Emma and Luke are assigned to disguise as a passenger. In the meantime, Alden and Rue will play their role as American inspector to supervise the train officers, while Barry and Tina will help them from Merry Fitness. Shortly that night, they fly straight away using the private jet. Emma's using a new identity as a student named Anna, while Luke changed his identity to Dimitri, who will go fishing. Finally, they were already on the train, and one of the carriages was carrying dangerous chemicals. Luke and Emma fight again while watching several passengers who are considered suspicious, whom they suspect are Boro's subordinates. Starting from a woman wearing military shoes, then there is a man carrying a guitar bag, and it could be that the bag contains weapons. Stranger still, there was a man who was eating bread but his fingers were bruised. Emma wanted to beat them up, but Luke didn't agree because they needed evidence. Meanwhile, Alden and Rue watch over the train control officers. Besides doing the mission, Barry also spies on Donatello, who is seen contacting another woman besides Tally. As Luke had suspected, Donatello was a jerk. On the train, Luke is suspicious because the train doesn't stop as it approaches a bend. It turns out there is a helicopter flying over the train, and the man Emma suspects was on the train roof. Apparently, the helicopter is sucking up the radioactive waste, and Luke is straight up on the train roof. If the helicopter is shot down, the nuclear waste will contaminate the wheat fields, which can kill millions of people. Smart Emma has a plan to speed up the train so that the helicopter releases the hose. The machinist worked with Burrow, but luckily he was paralyzed. They then pulled the handle to make the train go fast. Their plan worked after the helicopter left. However, this train was going too fast. After that, we move on to episode 3. To make this train slow down, they had to use the nuclear waste to heat the rails. By using a magnetic vest, Emma crawled on top of the train, followed by Luke, who was inside of the carriage so that they could pull each other. Emma manages to get the hose and the train finally stops. On the other side, Burrow takes William hostage somewhere. William is threatened with a saw, so he finally says that he's heard Finn call Danny with Emma and talk about the violin. But still, Burrow orders his man to cut off William's leg. Burrow then assigned dozens of his subordinates who were experts in hacking to reveal about Finn House and Emma. On the other side, Luke and the other CIA agents were partying on the boat. At that time, they received information from Tina that a radioactive scientist, Dr. Novik from Moldova, had been kidnapped and it might be connected with Burrow. The regional CIA director explained that Dr. Novik wrote a scientific paper outlining a new process for extracting and multiplying nuclear material. Then the director explained about a woman named Nika, who handled Novik while living in a guarded dormitory, and she will be their next target to get the paper. Alden, who was good at seducing women, was assigned to carry out this mission. After that, Alden will use an application that can retrieve files which they hide. Then the team went to the target location, which is in a bar. Arriving in Moldova, Alden and Emma were in the bar waiting for their target, Nika. Luke and Rue are outside the bar and waiting in the car. Then, a beautiful woman entered the bar, but her name was not Nika. Her name is Anya. Apparently, there is a misinformation here. It was not Nika, but it was Nick Space A, and surprisingly, he is a man. Alden tried to glance at him, but it turned out that Nick was a heterosexual. As a result, the plan changed and Emma had to seduce him instead. Even though Luke didn't agree, he couldn't cancel this mission. Alden then helped Emma to change her appearance so that she was a little seductive. Emma then approached Nick and seduced him, so she was taken to Nick's house. After knowing the location of Nick's apartment, Luke and Rue moved first to watch from afar. Some of the men in the bar had disrupted their mission, but luckily, Alden took action so that Emma and Nick could go from there. In order to get closer to the target location, Rue has to pretend to be sick so he can get into the treatment room, which is located right above the target's house. This is done so that Rue can use the surveillance camera to spy on the target's actions. However, this action was caught by a doctor. On the other hand, Emma is already at Nick's house. It turned out that the area was protected by a Faraday shield, which made it difficult for the team to communicate with Emma. In another place, Rue forced the doctor to anesthetize himself, and after that he immediately shot a surveillance camera. There, Emma used the Jam Slam application to hack data from Nick's laptop. But the data is really difficult to retrieve. Then Luke slows the amperage of the Faraday shield cables so as not to trigger an alarm. Emma's disguise is almost blown when Nick looks at her phone. Even though Luke had weakened the electricity so Barry was able to download the file, it turned out that there is no scientific article that they are looking for in the laptop. So, Emma had to get a copy directly from the safe. Then, after making Nick tired, Emma immediately broke into the safe. But not long after, Nick woke up, and after that the show continued to episode 4. Even though she was at gunpoint, Emma stayed calm and went away with the files because she was sure Nick was just an office worker. Despite the success of the mission, Emma feels guilty to her boyfriend for covering up her real job. When Luke and Emma returned home, Carter surprised Emma by giving her an expensive violin as a gift. And at that moment, Carter proposes to Emma to marry him. Meanwhile, Dr. Novak is taken hostage by Burrow to continue his sinister plan of making weapons of mass destruction. Burrow will provide whatever materials the chemist needs. After Tally complains about quitting her job, Luke offers a job for her as an admin in his gym. Barry is shocked because the gym is actually the headquarters of the CIA. If Tally is there, Barry will find it difficult to carry out the strategic directions. But Luke doesn't care. The important thing is he can get Tally back. Then the CIA director explained about a tool that Boro and Dr. Novak needed to turn the nuclear waste into a weapon of mass destruction. The tool is referred to as a miniature nuclear reactor, which is only used by a handful of private industries and research institutions. To lure Boro, who needs the tool, the team remembers the Great Dane, an illegal weapons dealer. They will need the Great Dane for completing this mission. Then the team was assigned to find the Great Dane. On the other hand, Tally, who is looking after the fitness center, is visited by Luke's competitor, who both own a health club. However, related with the mission, it turns out that Rue does not really agree with his team's plan to recruit the Great Dane, because Dane once shot his leg. Shortly, the CIA team found Great Dane's location, which is in a prison in Turkey, and he's using a pseudonym. But then, they could get Great Dane out of prison, and he was assigned to pretend to sell the miniature nuclear reactor to Boro. However, the team had to appoint someone to replace Dane's position in jail so that Boro wouldn't know if Great Dane was actually in jail. When no more agents could be recruited for this mission, Barry suddenly volunteered himself, hoping that Tina would admire and like him. Long story short, the team immediately flies to Turkey. Luke will jump with Barry, then land on top of the prison. After that, Barry got in through the air vent with Tina's direction. With the magic fluid, Barry could easily break into the wall. And this is the Great Dane, who will be recruited in this mission. Luke then takes Dane up to the plane. Meanwhile, Barry replaces Dane as a convict. Barry uses this opportunity to get to know Tina better through their long-distance communication. It turns out that Rue's leg was shot by Dane on a mission in Kalimantan. Luke promises Dane freedom if he will help the CIA team catch Boro. On the other hand, Tally was bored at the gym, so she called an old Mary Fitness customer who had bought 26 fitness equipment. The one who received the call was a CIA agent at headquarters, with the aim of keeping Luke and his team's cover from being blown. But this became a problem, because Luke put Tally to work at the gym without permission from the CIA. On the other hand, the Great Dane immediately contacted Boro and pretended that he was going to sell the MNR to him. Boro, who already knew Dane, immediately agreed. Anyways, Boro really needed the device. In 10 hours, they agreed to meet at the Turkish border. While Luke and Emma were loading the MNR into the pickup truck, they got into another fight about Emma and Carter's wedding plan. And because of their carelessness, the pickup truck was stolen. The problem got bigger because Dane had promised to Boro that he would sell the weapon. At the same time, elsewhere, someone called Tally and she looked surprised. When the team changed their plan to return Great Dane to the jail, it turned out he had escaped. And after that, it continued to episode 5. Then the team divided up the work. Luke and Emma would chase the NNR's thieves, while Alden and Rue will chase the Great Dane and put him back in jail. However, Dane suddenly was already behind them. When these thieves were checking the MNR, Luke and Emma immediately showed their prowess. After the shootout, Luke and Emma finally managed to finish off the thieves. Strangely, one of these thieves looked like Dane, while the real Dane was returned to prison. When they met with Boro, Alden acted as Dane's companion. Meanwhile, someone who looked like Dane only made gestures which were Dane's trademark so that Boro would not suspect anything. When the MNR box was opened, this was what happened. Luke and Emma immediately chased Boro, who tried to escape, while Alden had to duel with Boro's men. Besides that, Barry got in trouble because a prison official came into his cell. Elsewhere, Alden is shocked because he gets help from a female sniper named Diana, who he once dated. In the end, Boro was captured, and fortunately, Barry also managed to paralyze the prison warden. When Luke comes home, Tally informs him that their granddaughter, Romy, is sick. 2 days later, Luke and Emma frame Kyle, Romy's biological father. Because Romy has leukemia, Kyle is forced to donate his bone marrow after their DNA proves to be a match. Back at the CIA headquarters, the team intends to interrogate Boro with a little bit violence to get all the information about his accomplices who are involved in the illegal arms trade. This task will be given to Carlson, an ordinary old man, but his actions are horrific. In the end, Boro is willing to help the CIA to catch the big criminals if his requests to be under house arrest in Bora Bora granted. If the CIA refuses, Boro believes that the buyer will get nuclear from other sources. At the same time, he glances at the engagement ring on Emma's finger. Then, Luke promises to consider Boro's request. On the other hand, Luke gets the good news that Kyle and Romy's DNA matches. Kyle is willing to donate his bone marrow, but he asked for $150,000 in return. Luke and his family are shocked, but they have no choice. After that, Tally asked Luke to sell his boat for Romy, even though it took time. Luke then took the diamond that was given to his granddaughter, but Emma saw it, and this made her disappointed. After that, Emma took out her anger on Carter, who was busy making horse toys instead of looking for the solution. Luke promises to give the diamonds worth $300,000 as long as Kyle immediately undergoes tests from the doctor, because they only have 24 hours left to save Romy. At the same time, Barry installs a tracker in Kyle's car. Emma is disappointed with his superior because Boro must be released within 48 hours after the pressure from OFAC to extradite him to Zimbabwe. Before Boro knows he's going to be extradited, Luke must take advantage of his limited time to get hold of the top-class criminal. Boro is then taken to a location to record a video of how he offers the gun to the black market. Meanwhile, Emma and Alden work together to catch Kyle, who tried to run away from his responsibilities. When Emma and Alden forced Kyle to be taken to the gym base, it turned out that two men who were rivals secretly recorded this incident. Carlson is then assigned to suck out Kyle's spinal fluid. Meanwhile, the team carrying Boro was attacked by an armed group. With Rue's help, Luke attempts to fight them off, but because there were too many of them, they were overwhelmed, and they managed to take Boro away. The good news, Romy survived with a bone marrow donor. However, their mission to catch big criminals has failed because the IP addresses of the buyers are fake. Just then, Alden and Emma kiss, and unbeknownst to them, Luke sees them. Carter, who was in the hospital, felt that Emma's attitude had changed. Luke then advises Carter to continue fighting for his relationship with Emma. Then, Tally suddenly gets a video of Emma and Alden taking Kyle to the fitness center. The story continued to episode 6. Carter, who was practicing boxing with Luke, felt hurt when he learned that Emma had kissed Alden. At CIA headquarters, the team gets tipped off by NSA intelligence about a high-stakes card game, and it's set to be held in 2 days in Moscow. One of the players is Kane Khan, Boro's right-hand man. 2 agents will be sent there and disguised as a gambler with the aim of hacking into Kane Khan's cell phone so the team knows Boro's whereabouts. The team chose Barry and Tina to carry out the disguises in Moscow, as Boro did not know them. Meanwhile, Tally shows Luke the videotape of Kyle's kidnapping. At that time, Luke made an excuse that it was their last way to save Romy. Here, Tally is happy because Luke cares so much for their granddaughter. Because they got carried away, they finally kissed on that beautiful afternoon. With glasses equipped with a camera, Barry and Tina will be directed in the gambling game to buy time until the hack of the cell phone is complete. Then, Emma and her team manage to take 2 gambling players hostage who will be replaced by Barry and Tina. Several guards were there in the gambling house, but they also managed to paralyze the guards. Then the team watched over them until the mission was completed. Barry and Tina arrived at a gambling place. Their phones are secured, but they also activate their hacking tools. While Emma and Rue look after the gambler, the man runs away. On the other hand, Alden finds a secret room. Unfortunately, they are all now trapped in a secret room that is locked. As expected, Kane Khan got involved in this game. Meanwhile, the team found an old-school computer suspected to be this banker's locking system. Because there were no ventilation ducts, within a few hours, they would die from suffocation. Barry and Tina had to buy time until Kane Khan's mobile hacking was done. Because of that, they had to help Kane to always win in the gambling game. So that the bunker door opened, they had to reset the computer as if it were the year 2000, and that problem could be solved by Rue. The team was surprised because Boro came to that place. At that moment, Tina and Barry were assigned to kill Boro. It turned out that Boro's aim here was to meet his Russian relations who will soon arrive. After Kane wins many times, Tina wants to take a break while making drinks for Boro. Even though Tina will mix poison to kill Boro, there are 30 minutes left until the download of the cell phone is finished. And in the end, the Russian that Boro is going to meet finally came. The poison drink was already prepared on the table. This bald man, Volek, asked Boro to cancel the auction of the weapons and sell them all to him. And in return, he will provide information about the real identities of Finhouse and Danny. Unfortunately, the poison drink that had been prepared for Boro was drunk by another gambler. And after that, the man started vomiting. On the other hand, Luke was disappointed in Emma, who was more supportive of Tally's boyfriend than her own father. Finally, the bunker door opened. Barry and Tina managed to complete their mission, although Burrow is still alive. Next, we move on to episode 7. Emma was among the difficult choices. Should she choose Alden or her fiancé? The director of the CIA explained the latest information about Burrow's whereabouts in Sardovia, which is a nuclear radiation area. They had received the green light to kill Burrow, even though Luke disagreed. The next day, Emma is shocked when Carter suddenly breaks up with her, even though she already regrets what she did. There is only one happy person in this CIA team, and he is Barry, who managed to get his crush. To go to Sardovia, this CIA team must change the identity of another country, and they will enter Azerbaijan. From there, this team will intrude in by becoming corpses. There, the team will also meet a Sardovian agent named Landon Fedorov, who was once recruited by Luke. Their goal is to find the nuclear briefcase and kill Burrow. Long story short, the team arrived in Sardovia and got out of the coffin. While continuing their journey by car, suddenly they were showered with gunfire, and the perpetrators were Landon's gang, who were now treacherous. And this is Alden and Emma's revenge. And the funny thing is, this is Rue's mistake.
That was on me.
Dr. Novak, who was held hostage by Burrow, managed to make 19 nuclear briefcases, and those are ready to be used as weapons of mass destruction. When Novak asked to be freed, Burrow instead killed him. Due to Rue's mistake, the CIA team has to walk to Burrow's hideout. After passing through an alley, Rue was taking care of Alden, who suffered a gunshot wound. While Luke and Emma continued their hunt, Luke started to paralyze Burrow's men one by one. After that, Luke pointed his gun at Burrow, but Burrow's right-hand man came. With instructions from the doctor, Rue must use his urine to save Alden. Meanwhile, Emma chased Burrow, who was about to run away, until they got into a fight. In the end, Burrow's right-hand man died with his own grenade, but as a result of the explosion, Emma was trapped. And the big problem, the fire could trigger a nuclear explosion, and Emma has to face Burrow again. And after that, it continued to the last episode. Finally, Emma and Burrow agreed to work together to get out of the room, which would explode at any moment. Luke must get his team out in 15 minutes, otherwise they will all die. Meanwhile, Rue is still struggling to save Alden by making an incision in Alden's lung. Then, Luke and Emma are communicating with Morse code in the ventilation duct. The orders are to save Emma and kill Burrow. Alden and Rue also manage to get out of there. Here, Emma will go up and try to get out, but apparently they left Burrow until a big explosion occurred there, which destroyed the entire nuclear briefcase. Luke and Emma finally end up apologizing to each other. In the end, the team is already on the plane to return home. Several months later, Luke shows up at Tally and Donnie's wedding. Emma is disappointed because Luke had to fight to get Tally back, because according to Emma, her mother did not love Donnie. When Luke told Tally about his true identity as a CIA agent, suddenly a big explosion occurred. Armed men came in to shoot Luke's family. At that time, Emma and Luke worked together to finish off all their enemies. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Alden and Rue are consulting with a doctor. Apparently, Burrow is still alive with wounds all over his body. He instantly took Tally hostage. But finally, with the medal, Luke and Emma managed to finish off Burrow. And the movie ended.